Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be looking at Reason's Redrum drum machine step sequencer. If we have a closer look at Redrum, we can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 channels. Okay, inside each one of these channels we have a part of the drum kit loaded up. In channel number 1 we have an instrument called BD_disco. BD stands for bass drum. Disco means we've got a disco style kit loaded up in our drum machine. So in channel 1 we've got a BD, bass drum. If I want to listen to what's in channel 1, I've got a trigger button just here. Trigger button is next to the mute and solo buttons. Okay, in channel 2 I've got SD. SD stands for snare drum. We've got SD-SS side stick, so a snare drum side stick. Egg for a shaker. Tom 3, floor tom. Tom 2, low tom. Tom 1, high tom. HH-CL stands for hi-hats closed. HH-OP stands for hi-hats open. RD stands for ride cymbal. Okay, so down here we have the 16 steps of the step sequencer. Each step is the equivalent of one semiquaver. So it's 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A. If you have a look closely in between the 4 and 5, we've got a little gap here. That means we've got beat 1 here, beat 2 starts on step 5, beat 3 on step 9, beat 4 on step 13. So at the moment I've got channel 1, which is my bass drum channel, selected. If I start writing in hits on 1, 5, 9 and 13, that's going to play crotchets. Dum, 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 dum. If I hit run, we can hear the crotchet bass drum pattern. Alright, now if I want to add more instruments to this track, say if I wanted to add a closed hi-hat in channel 8, I would select channel 8. Now once I select channel 8, watch these steps disappear. The reason they've now disappeared is because we're focused on whatever is written on the hi-hat channel. Obviously nothing is written, that's why it's an empty amount. Now I'm just going to pepper some around, hit run. Cool. Okay, now if I want to add some egg shaker to my drum beat, egg is in channel 4. I'd simply select channel 4, I can start writing it in and so on. Now the issue with this is it sounds very robotic. Every hit is played at the exact same volume. This does not happen in the real world. In the real world you might hit the snare drum louder, you might hit the bass drum softer and so on. Over at the dynamic switch we can toggle how loud or how quiet we want our hits to play. You'll notice that the color changes slightly for loud. For example, it'll go red, and for soft, it goes a lighter color. So we can make it a little bit more human over here. All right. Now, if I want to change the type of drum kit from a disco kit, say if I wanted to write a house track, I could simply click and select a new kit. Once I've done that, you'll notice that all my sounds and hits have changed. All right. The other thing, say I've got my drum beat already and I really like that, I can select a new pattern. For example, we've got Bank A pattern 1, which has this drum beat written in there. If I select pattern 2, I've now got an empty pattern or a clean slate where I can start writing my drum beats. Now, I'm going to make these hard. Once again, 4 crotchet bass drums. Now, if I was writing a house track, I would need to speed it up. At the moment, this is playing at the tempo of 120 beats per minute. House tracks, you'd want to play 135 or faster. Okay, so I've got a tempo now of 135. If I click in my bass drum, much better. Okay, now you'll notice this drum beat. it's going to get really monotonous really quickly when it's just looping 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to the same 4 beats again. I'm going to want to increase my steps. At the moment, I've got 16 steps, and that is the length of my loop. If I want to play, say, 2 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, before it loops back, I would simply have to double my amount of steps from 16 to 32. Now when I hit run, you can hear I've got an empty bar before it loops back to the start. Now if I want to write in the drum hits for the second bar, I need to move my edit steps toggle switch. At the moment, I'm looking at steps 1 through to 16. If I move it up, I can now edit steps 17 to 32. This is the second bar. So if I just put in, I'll just mix it up a little bit, and I'll grab my effect and I'll just put it in wherever, and I might add something else here, just so we can really hear the difference. Bar 1, bar 2, bar 1, bar 2. Okay. Now, when you start writing your own drum beats using a step sequencer, it's really easy to get carried away and just put stuff wherever, and it's always going to play in time. But there's a couple of tricks you need to understand to make sure your drum beats sound musical. Number 1 rule: make sure you put a bass drum on step number 1. All right. The reason why we want a bass drum on step number 1 is because we want our loop to sound like it starts at step 1. If I don't have a bass drum at step 1 and instead I put one at step 4, our loop is going to sound like it starts at step 4. Okay. We have to make sure we have a bass drum at step 1 to make sure our loop sounds like it starts at the start. That doesn't mean to say I can't put bass drums anywhere else. I can put them wherever I want, but I need to make sure I've got one on step 1. Second rule, we want to make sure our snare drum is playing what we call a backbeat. A backbeat is when the snare drum plays on beats 2 and beat 4. So beat 2 I know is located at step 5, beat 4 is located at step 13. Cool. Now, so far I've written in 2 drum hits. I'm going to add a third. Here we have a fourth. Here we have a fifth. Okay, now if I start adding more, it's starting to become a little bit unmusical. This is what I'm saying. When you're writing drum beats using step sequences, it's really easy to get carried away and just put a bit of every single drum hit in your drum pattern. What you need to make sure is you limit yourself to a maximum 5 hits. Otherwise, your drum beat might start to sound very convoluted. So often in music and composition, less is more. Now, at the moment, this is playing what I call straight quavers. Straight quavers are like a clock going tick-tock, 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 tick-tock. What we can do, we've got a shuffle button here. This is going to play what we call swung quavers or shuffle quavers. This makes the quavers long, short, long, short, long, short, long, and it gives the song a lot more groove. Have a listen to the shuffle icon engaged. Notice how it's got a lot more groove to it. Here it is without shuffle. This is very straight. Here it is shuffled. So when you are writing your drum grooves, make sure you experiment with shuffle. Okay?